Someone cuts you off in traffic, and you rage for the next 20 minutes. A colleague makes a passive-aggressive comment, and you spiral for the rest of the day. Your partner says something dismissive, and you react with anger, or withdrawal, or tears. And you think this is normal. You think this is just how emotions work. But what if I told you that every time this happens, you're being robbed? Not of your time, not of your peace, but of something far more valuable, your sovereignty. If you're watching this, you already know what I'm talking about. You've felt it. That moment when someone says something or does something, and suddenly you're not in control anymore. Your nervous system is hijacked. Your thoughts are consumed. Your day is derailed. And the worst part? You blame them. They made you angry. They upset you. They ruined your day. But here's the truth that will either liberate you or enrage you. Nobody makes you feel anything. You give your emotional response away. You surrender your sovereignty. You allow other people to reach inside your chest and manipulate your nervous system like a puppet master, pulling strings. And you do this hundreds of times a day without even noticing. This is about becoming unprovocable, about taking back the one thing that nobody can steal from you unless you hand it over: your emotional response. Marcus Aurelius understood this 2,000 years ago. Roman emperor, most powerful man in the world. And he spent his nights writing to himself about the one territory he actually controlled: his mind, his response, his inner citadel. Because everything else could be taken: his empire, his family, his health, his life. But his response to those things, that was his alone, unless he gave it away. And you give yours away constantly, to strangers, to coworkers, to family, to anyone who knows which buttons to push. You are provocable, and provocable people are weak, not because they feel emotions, but because they have no governor, no control, no sovereignty over their own nervous system. They are reactive, and reactive people are predictable, and predictable people are controllable. Someone wants you angry, they know exactly what to say. Someone wants you defensive, they know exactly what to imply. Someone wants you spiraling, they know exactly what to withhold. You are not free. You are a collection of triggers waiting to be activated. And this is costing you everything. Your relationships, because you react instead of respond. Your career, because you're emotionally volatile instead of strategically calm. Your peace, because you've given everyone around you the remote control to your nervous system. But there's another way, an ancient way, a way that the Stoics practiced, that the samurai embodied, that every truly powerful person throughout history has mastered: the way of the unprovocable, not emotionless, not cold, not detached from life, but sovereign, self-governed, in control of the one thing that actually matters: how you respond. Let me show you exactly how this works, how you've been conditioned to give away your emotional sovereignty, how you've been trained to be provocable, how you've made yourself a slave to other people's behavior. It starts early. You're a child. Someone says something mean. You cry. And what happens? Adults swoop in. Oh, that was so mean. They hurt your feelings. You have every right to be upset. And right there, right in that moment, you learn the equation. Their action equals your emotion. They did something. Therefore, you feel something. Cause and effect. Simple. Automatic. Inevitable. But it's a lie. What actually happened is this: they did something. You interpreted it. You gave it meaning. You had a thought about it. And that thought created the emotion. But you skip that middle part. You go straight from their action to your emotion, and you call it causation. They made me angry. No, you made yourself angry by the meaning you assigned to their action. And I know what you're thinking. This sounds like semantic nonsense, like I'm splitting hairs, like I'm minimizing real hurt. But stay with me, because this distinction is everything. If they make you angry, you're powerless. You're a victim of their behavior. You have no agency. You're just reacting to external stimuli, like a lab rat. But if you make yourself angry, through your interpretation of their behavior, then you have power. You have choice. You have sovereignty. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said it clearly. People are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them. Not by the thing itself, but by your view of the thing, your interpretation, your meaning, your story about what it means. And that story, that's yours. That's the one piece you actually control. But you don't use that control. You don't even know you have it. You've been conditioned to believe that emotions just happen to you, that you're a passive receiver of feelings generated by other people's actions. And this conditioning is reinforced everywhere. Therapy culture tells you to validate every feeling. Social media tells you that anyone who upsets you is toxic. Popular psychology tells you that your emotions are always valid and should always be expressed. All of which sounds compassionate, but it's actually imprisonment, because it takes away your agency. It makes you dependent on other people behaving correctly for you to feel okay. And other people will never behave correctly. Not consistently, not reliably, not in the way you need them to. So you're trapped, constantly at the mercy of a world that doesn't care about your emotional stability, unless you take back your sovereignty. Here's the mechanism you need to see. Every emotional reaction has a gap, a space between stimulus and response. Something happens. That's the stimulus. You have a thought about what happened. That's the gap. You feel an emotion. That's the response. Most people don't see the gap. They go straight from stimulus to response, and they think it's automatic. But it's not. There's always a thought in the middle, an interpretation, a meaning you assigned. And that's where your power lives, in that gap, in that space between what happens and how you respond. That's the territory the Stoics were talking about. That's the inner citadel Marcus Aurelius was protecting. That's your sovereignty. And right now, you're letting everyone invade it. Here's what you don't want to hear. You're not just provocable by accident. You're not just poorly trained or emotionally immature. You're addicted to being provoked. Because being provoked gives you something you don't want to admit you're getting. Significance. When someone provokes you and you react, you feel alive. You feel something strongly. You feel like you matter enough to be affected. Your nervous system lights up. Your thoughts race. Your body floods with chemicals. And that feels important. That feels real. That feels like you're engaged with life instead of numb to it. This is the hidden payoff of reactivity. It makes you feel things, strong things, immediate things, and you're addicted to that feeling, even when it's painful, even when it's destructive, even when it ruins your day and damages your relationships. You keep coming back to it. Keep engaging with people who provoke you. Keep replaying conversations that upset you. Keep checking social media that enrages you. Because the activation feels better than the numbness. Marcus Aurelius saw this in himself. He watched how his mind wanted to be disturbed, how it sought out problems to be agitated about, how it found offense even when none was intended. And he called this out in his meditations. How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it? The damage you do to yourself by being provoked is always worse than whatever provoked you. But you do it anyway, because in the moment, the activation feels necessary, feels justified, feels like you're defending something important, your pride, your dignity, your right to be respected. When really, you're just defending your addiction to reactivity. Here's the other thing you're getting: identity. When you're easily provoked, you get to be the victim, the one who was wronged, the one who has every right to be upset. And that identity is powerful. It gives you moral high ground. It makes you righteous in your anger. It justifies any response because you were provoked first. You get to be the wronged party. And the wronged party gets sympathy, gets validation, gets to be right. So you protect your provocability. You defend your right to be offended. You insist that certain things should make you angry. Because if you become unprovocable, you lose that identity. You lose the moral high ground. You lose the justification for your reactions. You become responsible for your emotional state. And that's terrifying, because it means you can't blame anyone else anymore. Can't point to their behavior as the cause of your suffering. Can't claim victimhood when you react poorly. You become accountable. And accountability is the last thing the reactive person wants. So you stay provocable. You protect your triggers. You cultivate your sensitivities. And you call it authenticity, or boundaries, or self-respect. When really, it's just addiction to reactivity and investment in victimhood. The unprovocable person threatens this entire economy. They show you that it's possible to face the same provocations and not react, to hear the same insults and not be disturbed, to experience the same circumstances and remain sovereign. And that threatens everything you've built your identity on. So you resist it. You call it cold, or unfeeling, or inauthentic. You do anything except admit the truth, that you could be unprovocable if you wanted to. But you don't want to, because you're too invested in what being provocable gives you. Now, let me show you the way out. The ancient technology for becoming unprovocable. The Stoic practice that every powerful person throughout history has used. It starts with a simple distinction: things you control, things you don't control. The Stoics were obsessed with this. Epictetus built his entire philosophy around it. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of it constantly, because this distinction is everything. You don't control what other people say. You don't control what they do. You don't control how they treat you. You don't control their opinions. You don't control their behavior. You control one thing: your response, not your initial feeling. That's often automatic, but what you do with that feeling, whether you feed it or let it pass, whether you act on it or observe it, whether you let it control you or you remain sovereign over it, that's yours. That's the territory you govern. And when you really understand this, when you really embody it, everything changes, because you stop trying to control what you can't control. You stop getting angry at other people for being themselves. You stop demanding that the world conform to your preferences. You focus all your energy on the one thing that's actually yours: your response. This is what Marcus Aurelius meant when he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. The strength comes from accepting what you don't control and mastering what you do. Here's how this works in practice. Someone insults you. That's outside your control. They said what they said. It's done. It's in the past already. Now you have a choice. The only choice you actually have. What meaning will you assign to this? What story will you tell yourself about what it means? How will you respond? Option 1. You could take it personally. Make it mean something about your worth. Get defensive. Get angry. Spend the next hour composing the perfect comeback in your head. That's giving away your sovereignty. That's letting them control your emotional state. That's being provocable. Option 2. You could recognize that their insult tells you more about them than about you. That hurt people. That their opinion is just their opinion and has no power over you unless you give it power. And you could choose not to give it power. Not by suppressing your feelings, not by pretending it didn't sting, but by observing the sting without letting it control you. Interesting. That person said something insulting. I notice I'm having thoughts about it. I notice some activation in my nervous system. And now I choose. Do I feed this, or do I let it pass? That's sovereignty. That's the gap between stimulus and response. That's where your power lives. The unprovocable person doesn't lack emotions. They have emotions. They notice emotions. They experience emotions. But they don't become their emotions. They don't let emotions dictate their response. They maintain a space between feeling and action. Epictetus called this the discipline of assent, the practice of noticing your initial reaction and then choosing whether to agree with it. You feel anger rising. That's automatic. That's your nervous system doing what nervous systems do. But then you have a choice. Do you assent to the anger? Do you agree with it? Do you let it run your behavior? Or do you observe it, acknowledge it, and then choose your response based on your values rather than your reactivity? This is the practice. Not once, but constantly. In every interaction. In every moment, someone does something that could provoke you. Stimulus. Gap. Response. And in that gap, you practice sovereignty. Let me tell you how to actually build this capacity. How to go from provocable to unprovocable. From reactive to sovereign. From controlled by others to self-governed. It's not a switch you flip. It's a muscle you build. And the world gives you constant opportunities to train. Every person who annoys you is a training opportunity. Every situation that frustrates you is a rep. Every moment you feel provoked is a chance to practice sovereignty. The Stoics knew this. They didn't avoid difficulty. They used difficulty. Every challenge was a chance to practice virtue. Every provocation was a chance to practice self-governance. Marcus Aurelius had a practice. Every morning, he would remind himself that he would encounter difficult people that day, people who were rude, ungrateful, arrogant, deceptive. And he would remind himself that these people couldn't actually harm him. They could only provide him with opportunities to practice patience and wisdom. This is the frame shift you need. Stop seeing provocations as attacks. Start seeing them as training. That person who cuts you off in traffic? Training opportunity. Can you notice the surge of anger and choose not to feed it? That colleague who makes a passive-aggressive comment? Training opportunity. Can you respond with clarity instead of reactivity? That family member who knows exactly which buttons to push? Training opportunity. Can you remain sovereign even when they're actively trying to provoke you? Every single interaction becomes practice. Here's the specific method. First, you catch yourself. The moment you feel provoked, you name it. I'm feeling provoked right now. Not judging it, not suppressing it, just noticing it, creating space around it. Second, you pause. You take a breath. You create physical space between the stimulus and your response. This is the gap. This is where your power lives. Third, you question your interpretation. What story am I telling myself about this? What meaning am I assigning? Is that the only possible interpretation? Maybe they're not trying to insult you. Maybe they're just having a bad day. Maybe what you heard isn't what they meant. Maybe this has nothing to do with you. You don't have to believe these alternatives. You just have to recognize that your initial interpretation is one of many possible interpretations. And that recognition alone creates sovereignty. Fourth, you choose your response based on your values rather than your reactivity. What kind of person do I want to be? How would I respond if I weren't provoked? What serves my actual goals here rather than just my ego? And you do that, even if your nervous system is screaming at you to react differently. This is the training. Stimulus. Catch. Pause. Question. Choose. Response. Again and again. In every situation where you could be provoked. At first, you'll fail constantly. You'll catch yourself after you've already reacted. You'll notice the gap too late. You'll choose reactivity more often than sovereignty. That's normal. That's the training. But over time, the gap gets wider. The pause gets longer. The choice becomes more automatic. You start noticing provocations in real time. You start having space between feeling and action. You start being able to choose your response even when you're feeling strong emotions. You become unprovocable, not because nothing bothers you, but because you've trained yourself to have a governor, a self-regulating mechanism that sits between stimulus and response. The Stoics called this the inner citadel, the part of you that nobody can touch, the part that remains yum, even when the world is chaos. You build it through practice, through choosing sovereignty over reactivity, through refusing to give other people control over your emotional state. Rep after rep after rep, until being unprovocable becomes your default, until emotional sovereignty becomes automatic, until you can face any provocation and remain in control of your response. That's the training ground. And it's everywhere, every moment, every interaction, every person who could provoke you. Train. Let me tell you what happens when you master this, when you become truly unprovocable, when you take back sovereignty over your emotional state. First, you become free. Not free from provocation, free from being controlled by provocation. People can say whatever they want about you, can do whatever they want to you, can try to manipulate or upset or control you, and none of it lands, because you're not giving them access to your inner state. You're like water. They throw a stone and it makes a splash, and then the water returns to calm. They don't own you anymore. They can't hijack your day. They can't derail your peace. They can't make you spend hours ruminating. You feel the provocation. You notice it. And then you let it pass, because you're not invested in staying provoked. This is freedom, real freedom, not the absence of challenge, but the presence of sovereignty. Second, you become powerful, not power over others, power over yourself. When you're unprovocable, you're unpredictable. People can't manipulate you because they can't reliably trigger you. The buttons they use to push don't work anymore. The provocations that used to derail you bounce off. The tactics that used to control you fail. You become someone who responds from choice rather than reflex, from strategy rather than emotion, from values rather than reactivity. And that makes you dangerous in the best possible way. Dangerous to anyone who wants to control you through your emotions. Dangerous to any system that depends on your reactivity. Dangerous to any relationship built on manipulation rather than respect. You can't be baited, can't be provoked, can't be controlled, because you own your response. Third, you become trustworthy. People around you start to realize something. You don't spiral. You don't explode. You don't react disproportionately to minor provocations. You're steady, reliable, governed. And that makes you someone people can depend on, someone they can bring problems to without fear of an emotional reaction, someone they can trust in crisis. The unprovocable person becomes a source of stability in an unstable world, an anchor when others are being tossed by their reactivity. This is leadership. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind, the kind that comes from self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius led an empire, faced wars and plagues and betrayals. And his soldiers followed him not because he was reactive and emotional, but because he was steady and sovereign. He didn't let external chaos create internal chaos. He maintained his inner citadel even when the outer world was burning. That's what being unprovocable gives you. Not coldness, not detachment, but sovereignty. The ability to feel deeply without being controlled by your feelings. The ability to care without being manipulated through your caring. The ability to engage fully with life while remaining free from life's provocations. Fourth, you become effective when you're not wasting energy on being provoked. That energy becomes available for creation, for building, for solving, for moving toward your goals, rather than just reacting to what's in front of you. The provocable person spends most of their energy on emotional management, dealing with their reactions, processing their upsets, recovering from their spirals. The unprovocable person puts that energy toward action, toward progress, toward results. They're not better people. They're not more talented. They're just more effective because they're not constantly derailed by their own reactivity. And over time, this compounds. The unprovocable person moves faster, achieves more, creates more value, not because they're special, but because they've mastered the one thing that actually matters: their response. This is what sovereignty gives you: freedom, power, trustworthiness, effectiveness, not through controlling the world, through controlling yourself, not through demanding others behave correctly, through choosing to respond correctly regardless of how others behave. This is the Stoic promise, and it's real, and it's available to you if you're willing to do the training. There are two types of people in this world: those who are provocable and those who are sovereign. The provocable person is controlled by external events, by other people's behavior, by circumstances beyond their control. They give away their emotional state constantly to strangers, to family, to anyone who knows which buttons to push. And they suffer, not because life is hard, but because they've made themselves dependent on life being easy. The sovereign person is different. They feel everything. They notice everything, but they're controlled by nothing. They own their response. They govern their emotional state. They maintain their inner citadel, regardless of what's happening outside. And you get to choose which one you are, not through some grand declaration, but through 1,000 small choices. Every time you're provoked, every time someone does something that could upset you, every time life doesn't go according to plan, in that moment, you choose. Do you give away your sovereignty, or do you keep it? Do you react from your conditioning, or do you respond from your values? Do you let them control your emotional state, or do you maintain your inner citadel? The choice is yours, always yours. in every moment. And the accumulated weight of those choices determines who you become: provocable or unprovocable, reactive or sovereign, controlled or free. Marcus Aurelius spent every night reminding himself of this choice, not because he was naturally unprovocable, but because he knew how easy it was to give away sovereignty, how seductive reactivity is, how justified anger feels, how righteous being provoked can seem. And he chose sovereignty anyway, again and again, until it became who he was. This is the practice, not perfection, just practice. Noticing when you're provoked, creating the gap, questioning your interpretation, choosing your response, again and again. In every interaction, in every moment, someone could control your emotional state. You practice sovereignty, and over time, you become unprovocable, not because nothing bothers you, but because you've trained yourself to have a governor, a self-regulating mechanism, an inner citadel that nobody can breach unless you let them. This is freedom. This is power. This is what the Stoics were pointing to. The one thing nobody can take from you unless you give it away. Your response. Will you keep giving it away? Keep letting others control your emotional state? Keep being provocable and reactive and at the mercy of external events? Or will you take it back? Will you practice sovereignty? Will you become unprovocable? The world doesn't care which you choose. The world will provoke you either way. But your life, your peace, your power, your freedom, all of that depends on your choice. So choose. Choose sovereignty over reactivity. Choose self-governance over being controlled. Choose to be unprovocable. Not because you're better than others, but because you're tired of giving away the one thing that's actually yours. Your response. Take it back. Train it. Master it. Become unprovocable. Nobody makes you feel anything. You give your emotional response away, or you keep it. The choice is yours. In every moment, choose sovereignty. Become unprovocable.